Hey y'all, what's up? This is MMA Toad. I'm going to go through my breakdown and prediction of Mexico City UFC Fight Night. Brandon Moreno taking on Steve Erceg in your main event. Looking forward to this one. Number one, we're not getting the Apex. I go on it every week. Having a live crowd changes everything. The booing makes a difference in stalemates. It's going to just put a lot of static in the atmosphere. Fighters at altitude, a lot of finishes. Expecting some submissions here. Going to start off covering Austin Huber taking on Markel Medeiros. I think this fight goes to the judges. If I favored a fight to win within the distance, it would be Markel winning via knockout. I think Austin's a bit of a gamer, though. I see this one going to the judges. My pick overall was fading Austin. I've seen a lot of people going Austin by decision. Kind of a split pick for me, but I'm gonna go with Markel. I'm gonna give this guy a shot before I count him out. I've been a little indifferent with Austin, so I like the prospect coming in. All right, next matchup: Jamal Emmers taking on Gabriel Miranda. I think this one's easy. I like it under 2.5 rounds. I'm either going to take Emmers by knockout, which is my lock, one of my locks on the card, but also I'm not going to count out Miranda. Those props by submission is crazy. The guy can't take much of a punch, though, so that's why he's not going to be my pick. He's not going to be in any of my parlays. But I am going to just throw a little salt and pepper on the Miranda by submission. Most of my stake is going to be under 2.5 rounds and riding with Emmers. Moving up, I like Rafael Garcia. I'm going to take him by decision over Vince the Hell Pichel. Oldest fighter on the card is paired up with the youngest fighter on the card, Rosas Jr. So literally the oldest and youngest fighter in UFC all on the same card. I like Garcia. I think he's going to be able to mix it up pretty well. Vince is just tough, and he is, in regards, he's not a small lightweight. It's just, man, you got one of the most physical weight classes. These dudes are explosive. They have insane cardio, and I just don't see where this guy fits in. This isn't Jan Blachowicz, Glover Teixeira. I'm a 205-pound fighter that, naturally this isn't getting as difficult for me to cut the weight as I age kind of weight class. 155 pounds. It's not a ton of weight. Like I literally weighed that shit in like 4th grade or 5th grade or some shit. So forgive me, 5th grade. I was at least 120 in 4th grade though. I was still a big kid. Anyways, moving up the card. I like that one. Despite events could get finished there, I see this one still going to Garcia. Probably play that one money line to be super safe, but I know on one of my distant props I took it over 2.5. I just had a feeling about it. Another one I have going to the judges, of course, women's MMA, 90% of the time. We got Palastri taking on Lupita Godinez. Loopy. I like Loopy. Obviously, she's right where she needs to be, fighting in Mexico. She's going to have a lot of morale. Her team is there. Everyone's hyped behind her. She is on a bit of a losing skid, so I see how people have faded her to go for like the plus, I think it's like 270 prop by decision for Julia. Not a bad one to take there if you're wanting a couple underdogs. They certainly showed up at UFC London. So a lot of people I see fading. But keep in mind that home field advantage does generally help with some judging as well. And I think at the end of the day, Lupita, she's proven herself at a top level. We got to see where, kind of her cutoff point was. That doesn't mean that she's necessarily the worst strawweight in the world. I think she's worthy of the top 15, and it's Julia that has to show that she's not the top 32nd in the world, you know what I mean? That she deserves to be in that top 15. So it's a test for her. I like, again, over 2.5 rounds, and I'm going to take Godinez by decision. Moving up the card, we got Costa taking on Christian Rodriguez. Rodriguez has gotten away with some robbery. He's gotten away with some close fights that's edged in his favor. Nonetheless, he is racking up one of the better resumes, honestly, despite, he's not really super known, not super established. You got to be kind of into MMA to even know who that is. But if you look here, he beat Austin Bosch. He And he's just a prospect killer. He beat Cameron Simon, Dracus Duplessis' training partner. He beat Isaac Dulgarian. He lost to Erosa, fine. Round 1 choke. Erosa's not bad in that world. He beat Rosas Jr. I actually thought about like if they had seen each other in the back, are they cool or whatever it is. Again, kind of a close fight, but yeah, C-Rod edges that one as well. So, again, not the shittiest fighter in the world when you break down his resume. He's 12-2. I like him by money line in this fight, and I like him over 2.5 rounds because he's a bit of a gamer and he does take these fighters that maybe in some cases should be beating him and edges out decisions very well. I like Costa at the same time, and I'm going to have this mixed up going both ways as Costa coming off some impressive submissions. He's very dangerous in that discipline. He's beatable. He's finishable at altitude, especially I think if Costa got the finish via submission, it would be in that first or second round, preferably when they're dry, full of energy, because as we go into a third round, on top of the fact that he wasn't that long ago, just fighting as well, here he is making another cut. He made the weight, unlike Lazy Boy, and it's going to be a tough one out for him. So I am going to go with C-Rod. This is one of the only times I've picked C-Rod. I've gone against him just about every time, believing in some of these prospects despite how promising they've looked, and this time I'm going to go against Costa. All right, moving up the card, we got Francis Ngannou's little bro taking on Jose Medina. Medina's going to threaten the submission. I think it's all he's got. He's got to incorporate the grappling, keep this fight off the feet, because Obeda will absolutely put his lights out. He's got tremendous power. He's got that one punch, one hitter quitter, and that's what he's known for here, first, second round at the very most. And although he's not undefeated, the ones who have been able to beat him drag him out to a decision via that control time and so forth as well. So get this guy off his feet. It could be another Despain. He's scary until he's not. Put him on his back, he's a turtle. So I am going to go with Goder, but I see some value for a long shot underdog in Medina via submission, decision, something on the ground here. So, all right, moving up the card, an absolute finisher. He's got a 100% finish rate in the 11 wins that he has. Edgar Charez taking on CJ Vergara. I think Vergara's had a tough go out. He's not, truthfully, one of the best fighters. Edgar is going to bring it to him. He's better in both areas, grappling, better in his striking, and he goes after it, and he's very well paced throughout this fight. Like he has a lot of cardio that he carries with him. They're going to be, again, fighting at altitude. I only see that working against Vergara as well. He's not going to be able to keep up with the tempo of Edgar in this fight. So I like this one under 2.5 rounds, and I'm going to take Edgar by double method on the finish. Moving up the card, you got Lazy Boy, Ronaldo Rodriguez taking on Kevin Borjas. Borjas is either going to shoot out, and have his knockout, which is not likely to happen in this fight, or Ronaldo, which, by the way, missed weight by 2.5 pounds, or technically 1.5 pounds. He's just going to do what he does. He has good power. He has great striking. Notably, his leg kicks are the big call-out point in this fight. Kevin is very susceptible to these leg kicks. He doesn't handle them well. It opens up opportunities for him to get dropped. I think the game plan from Ronaldo should be to sit back, invest in those leg kicks in the first round, and do your thing come second. Kevin still has a shot to hit a knockout of his own, but the moment Rodriguez takes him to the ground, it's going to be lights out from there. I see Rodriguez getting a submission in this as well. So I like, once again, if you're going to include this in a long shot, a parlay, I'd like the Ronaldo by submission or knockout, and the prop under 2.5 is pretty enticing here as well, despite these are smaller weight classes. So maybe don't parlay a lot of these flyweights and featherweights together with distance under. Maybe find the prop that you're happy with and just hit the over as the upset. I mean, it happens. These guys, again, don't necessarily possess that one-hitter quitter that we see at 205 plus. Unless you're from City Kickboxing. All right, moving up the card, last fight on the prelim before we move into the main card. You got David Martinez taking on Simon Oliveira. Martinez, he's a big draw point for this Mexico card. They're investing a little bit of publicity and stock. There's a reason why he's the headliner of the prelim. This dude, much like our Yo girl out of China, Ming, David is like a doctor, right? So he's doing his thing outside the octagon, finding time for the training, then showing up for the fight, making weight, doing all the things, staying hella fucking busy to do all this in one go. And it's going to favor him in this fight that Simon has been inactive for the last 2 years and is kind of starting to get over the hill of his prime, right? He's like 33 or so. I believe I have that right. Yes, he's 33. Approaching 34 here very soon. Anyways, Martinez, kickboxer, tremendous power. He's got that one-shot killer. At the same time, Oliveira gonna get a hold of him, try to take him to the ground, and exploit his grappling weakness. You could take this one under 2.5 to be pretty safe. I like the fact that again, Martinez has an incredible finishing rate. Right there you go, 82% of his wins via knockout. And Oliveira is going to be looking very good. There you go again, 61% via submission and some knockouts of his own. So, again, could actually see kind of a smaller replica version of Danny Barlow and Patterson, right? Like, we all assume that Oliveira wants to grab a hold of David Martinez, take him to the ground, knock him out. Very well might hit a knockout of his own. Again, I'm going to take this one under 2.5 and play it kind of safe on that front. And I'll take Martinez in a couple smaller parlays via knockout. But he's not included in my main cycle parlay. He's got a bit to prove to me in this one. Moving up to the main card, kicking off, youngest fighter, like I just said, Rosas Jr. Used to have his mom drive his ass in the minivan to get him there. Or so that was a cute little story he'd tell everybody to get his bonuses. Taking on Vince Morales. I like Rosas Jr.'s pressure. I think he's very good. He's got a lot of promise. In 10 years, he'll be kind of at that tiptoe of his division. Probably moved up by then. I'm sure he can't hit bantamweight forever. Eventually, he's got to grow into a man. Rosas Jr., like the pressure. The ground and pound solid. Last time out, a lot of people weren't too impressed. I think he was fighting a bit of a hand injury in that. Prior to that, we know he pulled out a fight due to being sick. So a little bit of, tough goes between getting into fight week healthy or, having things up to the fight go south. But I think when he's in there and he is feeling good, things seem to go really well. Being that his only loss was to C-Rod, and it was a hella close fight. So I like Rosas Jr. here. I've seen people hammer the finish method on him by knockout submission. I like Rosas mostly by submission or points. So I have that in one of my long shot parlays. So that if it does go to the judges, I assume that he'll take the first 2 rounds based on his grappling and probably start to gas a bit, slow down, and maybe Vince has him on the feet. So Morales, I would absolutely say try to keep the fight on the feet. He's a big underdog in this, plus 360. I think Rosas Jr. has a lot to be explored on the feet, and we don't quite get to see it because his grappling's so good. So that's got to be the game plan, I'm sure, for most teams going against him. Now, moving up, we're going to be dealing with some more notable fighters, some more veterans in the game. We got Calvin Gastelum, the once upon a time fighting Israel Adesanya in one of the greatest fights, literally at middleweight. It was fucking unreal. Here he is fighting Joe Pyfer, starting to fade. The inactivity has kind of started to caught up to him. Has had problems, making weight. This time around, he did make weight. I saw the jokes, the memes showing that he missed weight by like 30 pounds. All of his like fucking taco vlogs and shit. It was pretty funny. Joe Pyfer, though, I know a lot of people, more than any fighter on this card, believe it or not, I've seen from a betting perspective, have more stock and faith in Joe Pyfer than anybody else. And I have to remind the world that Pyfer got his ass beat to the Joker. And Joker's a good fighter. Jack Hermanson, he's not a shit fighter, but he's not one of those guys that's going to be looking any younger or better anytime soon. He's just more technical, as you would expect at a top-level UFC fighter. And I think Pyfer, up to that point, had gotten by with a lot of these older, slower guys that he was simply able to catch with his power. They call them body bags for a reason. We don't look at the guy. We don't look at his punching statistics on the machine and go, yeah, this guy punches like a bitch. But when you're in there and you're having an opponent circle off on you, making you chase, you're not cutting the corners correctly, you're having a problem crossing the void in time, and you're, especially in this case, fighting at altitude, it ironically starts to favor Gastelum. So I'll be paying attention in live props in this fight. And although I have stock on under 2.5 rounds and Pyfer both by knockout and submission, although again I had a tough time not going submission or decision with Pyfer because we know Gastelum's more susceptible to the submission and never been knocked out, I think the power of Pyfer is going to surprise Calvin in this case. He's, again, not super active. It's probably been a minute since he's ever been punched with anything remotely close to what Joe's going to hit him with early in this fight, and it could be all that she wrote. So I like the double method finish, under 2.5, Joe Pyfer. Throw him in. Also, my cycle parlay by submission. Yeah, I got a lot of stock myself in Pyfer, but I'm also not oblivious to the fact that, if he has a tough time out with Calvin, all of a sudden he's going to start to fall into that Kevin Holland status for me, where it's like, bro, you really got to prove yourself to me because you can't be showing up and losing to some of these guys, you know what I mean? Especially on the feet. So let's see what Calvin's got. He's got a huge chin. I made the joke when I was messaging somebody on a post about this fight, like, yeah, Calvin gasses Pyfer out by absorbing shots for the first 2.5 rounds and comes back like Neil Magny and beats his fucking ass into the ground. Could see that actually happening. Moving up to your co-main, we got Manel Torres taking on Drew Dober, another Buzz Lightyear looking chin motherfucker. He's just got one of those perfect Giga Chad jaw lines, huge ass like smile that transitions into a dimple that goes like perfectly angular down. It's such a unique fucking sculpture, that man. Whoever molded Drew Dober's face, they did a very interesting job. They just threw all the clay on and said, yep, this is this guy's chin. It's a huge jawbreaker. He does absolutely get submitted. I have Torres in this fight submitting him. You can see right here that he's been tapped 4 times, whereas to being dropped 3 times via TKO or knockout. But again, I really do like Manuel's chances in this fight. First round, he's a first round finisher, and then if he doesn't get it in the first round, it never goes this way. As you can see here, he had 1 split decision, otherwise he's lost everything. So if you're my Dover side of the game, probably want to go by second round knockout plus. If you're a Manuel fan, you probably want to do just first round, win via first round. It's either going to be Torres getting Dober to the ground, flattening him out, searching for the submission, which is personally how I think happens, or it could just lead into some brutal ground and pound. But yeah, that's how I see the fight goes. This is my most absolute lock on the card, that the fight does not go the distance. So I've hammered the under 2.5 prop on this in pretty much every fight parlay. Just about. Not everything, but just about. Now, moving into your main card, a personal favorite of mine, got to represent on the video, Brandon Moreno, the Assassin Baby, taking on Steve Astroboy Erceg, another guy that I've come to quite like in this growing flyweight division. We took on a lot of prospects simultaneously. Tats Rotira, Manel Kopp, you name it, they kept coming in. And Steve Erceg was one of those guys that I kind of respected, especially after his knockout. I know Matt Schnell, everyone's doing it. It's the popular flavor of the division. But it was very fucking clean. And knowing that this guy's got a little bit of pop in his shot and has some, power in the hands, combined with his jiu-jitsu capabilities, I like his future in the division. I know he's not quite as young as, Joshua Van or Tatsuro Taira or some of these guys. No. But we also have kind of a veteran flyweight at the top. Minus, again, you got Brandon Royval. He's up there as well. You got Pantoja. You always played with the idea that Pantoja would fight Figgy. I don't think Figgy can quite hit the weight anymore. You got Kai, and of course you got Brandon Moreno. I do see an opportunity for Erceg to shine at the top, but I don't think this is it. I think that a loss to Brandon Moreno in this fight would properly drop him into the flyweight division, just about to where I would have assumed he naturally would have ranked himself before running into some of this adversity and taking the first couple of losses in the UFC. No, they catapulted his ass straight up there, said, yo, take on Pantoja, take on Kai, and now take on Moreno. That's a tough feat. I mean, these guys absolutely have, a lot going on at the top of the division. They've achieved some of the highest feats and in many cases have set history, especially between Moreno and Pantoja. These are arguably two of some of the best flyweights of all time, especially Moreno taking on Figgy, winning that quadrilogy. And of course, Pantoja, honestly, being damn well, you might as well start to talk GOAT status of flyweight with Pantoja, because he's just a complete fighter. He's very tough. He's very chinny. Erceg struggles from what we can see so far, getting hit, getting clipped, but Moreno doesn't quite throw with that same crazy Josh Emmett kind of power that we see out of Carol France. Moreno's more a volume striker, accumulates the damage, works very strategically for the positioning, gets his hooks in, takes you to the ground, and does his thing. I don't see Moreno wanting to grapple as much with Erceg here. I like him popping his shot, finding his groove. Moreno, when he's in the zone, he's absolutely flowing. You can see it. The head movement's solid. He's not holding his head down the center line, which is why I'm not really too worried about him eating too big of these powerful shots for the ones that get through from Erceg. Moreno's never been finished. Let's just face it that I think Moreno, although it's probably more competitive in the jiu-jitsu department, he absolutely beats Steve Erceg in these departments. And the thing that Erceg doesn't quite have, which Moreno has more than pretty much almost any UFC fighter on the roster based on who he's fought, Moreno has experience. He has fought the champions. He has fought in a lot of 5-round bouts. And here he is. I know it's not been a good time out for him at Mexico City, but he's here on vengeance. He's here to redeem himself, if you will. But look at the mental fortitude going into this main event, smiling on the scales, not even looking down, even slightly concerned or hesitant, despite I saw him from the PI eating a nice piece of cheesecake when being interviewed during the media piece there. So we're seeing kind of this fully recharged, fully focused, rejuvenated, healed, which is very important at this state in Moreno's career, going into this, giving it everything he has, because he knows that after this, he's going to sail off. I don't see Moreno being one of these guys that would come back, lose to someone like Erceg, lose maybe the fight after that, and even still have that conversation of being around. He's very motivated. He has goals, and if he's not achieving them, why bother? He's got many other avenues. He's a well-loved and established fighter. Now, swinging back over to Erceg a little bit further, not to shy away from him too much on this, I think that he does have an opportunity in this fight to hunt for a submission. Moreno, despite doing very good with the striking and setting up his backpacks, if you will, taking the fight to the ground, he is extremely dangerous in these dicey kind of exchanges, right? Sprawling off, working back to his feet. You can't count this guy out necessarily in these grappling exchanges. He's not going to be the kind of guy that sits there and 2-on-1 wrist control. No, he's absolutely trying to get out of these situations and keep the fight on the ground and his control or back to the feet and breaking away. So I do see Erceg putting up a fight in this. I like Moreno by decision. I think Moreno easily can get 3-2 rounds on Erceg. If the prop was good enough earlier in the last few weeks, that was the time to do it. At this point, Moreno's moneyline prop is like -240. Factoring that he's the assassin baby and can get it done in all 3 ways, maybe that's the safest point at this, because if you're not getting a plus prop via decision, don't bother. I'm not counting Erceg out that much. So that's going to be my full breakdown on UFC Mexico City. I'm very excited for some of these upcoming cards. I got some BKFC stuff going on as well. Got a friend that's fighting there. I'm going to be doing a fight interview with as well. Big shout out to Jared Lennon there. And man, I used to watch so much BKFC. Just recently got Baboon taking on another top rising guy. I watched Baboon beat all my favorite guys. Good John and Dak Gwynn. BKFC's been like this on and off thing, so it's cool that through the MMA community, meeting some of these friends, guys are really into it again. It's kind of brought me back into BKFC, watching it, seeing some of these new faces and familiar do their thing. But yeah, we got UFC a lot on deck right now. UFC 314 is absolutely going to be one of the biggest weeks for me from a trading card perspective, from a fighter interest investment perspective. I'm one of the biggest Diego Lopez fans out there. Just truthfully, I've said since his debut against Movsar, this guy will be champion. I've done everything that I can to be included in on break. So there's a gold finest rookie auto of his and a nice little gold label auto there. I've got a decent collection, always trying to grow. Here's a Centurions case hit of his as well. Diego Lopez, he's like my spirit animal, man. I have an easy time getting behind him. I like what he fights for. I like his just like the way he carries himself. He's not trying to put on an act. He's not trying to be anybody but Diego Lopez. Very respectful and turns into an absolute killer the moment he's locked in that cage. Dropping guys. He's got that nice long snap, the length at featherweight. But here he is taking on one of the most beloved fighters in UFC history. How could you not love the great Alexander Volkanovski? He's been someone that I think many of us have grown to be a lot closer to the sport thanks to. Always putting on solid fights, great charisma. He's got other avenues that we see with his cooking outlets that are fun to follow. And that's just your main event. This is going to be for the Undisputed Championship. Ilya, as we know, is moving up to 155. Going to have a lot of fun breaking down more on that. Hoping that we get some more fight news on some of these question marks at the lightweight division. But, yeah, I knew that Diego would either be fighting Volk or be fighting Ilya. Breaks my heart that it's Volk because I was hoping that, if anything, Diego goes out and becomes the super good guy for getting vengeance for Volk and Max both. But, yeah, moving down to that co-main event, Paddy Pimblett taking on Chandler. I know the consensus is that Chandler's going to knock out Paddy. Paddy gets told he's going to get knocked out every fight in the UFC. And I've seen one thing, and it's that Paddy's a fucking gamer. He does absolutely get rocked at times, but he's completed and filled and evolved so much as a fighter since that early time frame in the UFC. His striking has improved. It wasn't Bobby shooting a takedown. It was Paddy's leg kick opening up that guillotine into that armbar against Bobby Green. So again, just want to throw it out there. Say, UFC 314, you got Prates, you got Mitchell, you got Gene Silva, you got Neil, you got Jeff Neal. So it's going to be a very fun card. I can't wait to go through that one, give you guys my full predictions. If you want to stay more in tune with the action, feel free to swing through my IG. I feel like I'm more active there based on the ease of access with other media, the convenience. But I absolutely want to make a push to do more in the YouTube space. So like, comment, subscribe. That's the only way I'm ever going to know that I actually have a viewership here that cares, that are getting these. This is a video that won't be shared to IG, it's only linked from. So if you've watched this, show me that you're one of these supporters up in the Mud Hut, a member of the MMA Toad. Hit those comments and let me know. Until next week, I'll give you guys your lives back. Much love. Thanks for hanging out. Peace.